Attention business owners, are you interested in owning your commercial space instead of paying rent to somebody else? This is the video series for you. We're going to talk all about the steps that it takes to go from being a tenant to owning your commercial space, to controlling it, to being the person that receives the rent instead of the person that pays the rent. So in this video, we're going to talk about negotiating price. We're making progress here. You found a property that you like. Before that, you found a broker you trust. You have a good lender. You're pre-approved. You understand what it's going to cost to remodel your space. All that has been done before now. And I know that sounds crazy, but now is when you're going to talk about negotiating the price. So, in my personal opinion, you want to go in with reasonable expectations. Frequently, I have clients that will see a building for, let's say, $2 million and say, let's offer them $1 million. And I think, you understand psychologically, it's like you want to start low and you really want to dig in and you want to grind. But, even if you do start low like that, which I don't really recommend, you want to make sure that you're doing all your analysis based on what it's probably going to sell for. And your commercial real estate broker is going to be the one to tell you, look, we can offer that very, very low price, but where it's probably going to sell is, let's say 1.8 million or 1.9 million. It depends on your market, but in some markets, there's a lot of give on the commercial space, on the commercial price. In some markets, there's no give at all. In fact, buildings are starting to sell for over their asking price. So that's why it's good to have a commercial real estate broker to help you set reasonable expectations for what it's going to cost. Going back on that initial point, I personally recommend, avoiding what I call scorched earth negotiating. That's when you come in just super strong, super low, kind of take a really tough tone that, this building is only worth 1 million, even though you're asking 2 million, you're ridiculous. Like, this is our price. The problem with that tone and that style is it rarely works out. If someone's asking $2 million for their building, someone has convinced them that it's worth roughly that. They might be wrong, but generally speaking, they're not going to come down as significantly as you want to in this example. The problem with coming in with that sort of low ball, we're gonna fight this out mentality is that if anybody else comes in and puts an offer in at a more reasonable price, you're immediately going to be in second position. And let's assume that if you're putting an offer in on a property, you're excited about it, you like it, you think it's going to be a benefit to your business, you think it's going to be a great retirement vehicle for your family. So I don't know if you really want to jeopardize that on a building that you like by coming in super low and just setting that tone. Secondly, when you come in really unreasonably, it's going to come across like you don't know the market and that you're not a real buyer. It's going to really kind of undercut your credibility. That's not great. Lastly, that seller is going to remember that you came in super low and evaluated, a piece of commercial real estate they own. They probably have attachment to it so much lower than they did. When it comes time to get into contract, let's say something's broken and you want to ask for a discount, they're going to remember that, and they might not be, nearly as accommodating when you start out with that super low ball. So, in other instances, you might need an extension on your escrow timeline. Let's say something went wrong and you need a little bit more time. It's going to be a lot easier to come back to that seller when you had a reasonable negotiation instead of feeling like, every dollar you can take from him, you do. It's that adversarial kind of vibe is not something that's going to help you if you need to ask that seller for any kind of help in the transaction. Oftentimes I have clients say, I only want to pay 1.5 million for this building, so tell them to sell it to us for 1.5 million. Obviously that doesn't work. At the end of the day, there's a price that the seller is willing to take and there's a price that you're willing to buy for. And if that number doesn't overlap a little bit, if that number doesn't match up, the transaction's not going anywhere. So frequently I have clients who will say, we need to get a lower price, tell them we need a lower price, send them another counter. When you get to that bottom barrel price from that seller, and your broker should have a pretty good feel for that, at that point, really the only thing you can do is walk away from the negotiation. Just say, hey, I'm really sorry we weren't able to agree on a price. This is my best and final. If it doesn't work, we're going to continue to look for other properties. That's really sort of your kind of last line of defense to make sure that they're not bluffing and that there's not more room on the price. Really, all you can control is walking away if you can't get the price that you want. And sometimes that's what you have to do. One other thing to try and do is tighten up your escrow timeline if you can. Frequently, people get very caught up on the price, and that's all that they're focused on, understandably. But there's other parts of the deal that are really important, like your escrow timeline for some reason. If you really like a property and you go in and maybe your lender isn't very responsive or needs a really long timeline to get your loan closed, let's say you make an offer and you need 90 days to get the deal closed. If somebody else comes in and can get it done in 45 days and can actually prove that they can do that, of course, they're going to be ahead of you. Now, imagine that you offered the exact same amount. You both offered, let's say, 1.8 million, but they can close in 45 days and you can close in 90 days. Obviously, you're at a disadvantage. I mean, you might be willing to pay even more, like significantly more. And if this seller is in a situation where they just want to have the building sold, they want it resolved, and they want it resolved quickly, they might actually sell to someone cheaper than they'll sell to you. So that's why I think, if you're to a point where you can't do anything about the price, you're kind of at your max, and there's still a gap there, talk to your lender and figure out if there's any way to tighten up your timeline. Of course, you don't want to make a promise you can't deliver on, and any seller is going to scrutinize you if you say, hey, I can close this in 15 days. You can't do that. But give some thought if there's a way to do some more work up front in order to have a quicker timeline, because that's a way for you to potentially close a deal, to get a better price, but it doesn't actually cost you anything. It allows you to just be a little more organized, maybe do a little more work up front. But that, once again, is why it's so important to be pre-approved when you're looking for a commercial building, because if you can come in with a quick offer and a relatively quick close, you're going to get a better price than someone else that's not ready or has a really long close. So these are just a few tips on negotiation. Obviously, lean heavily on your broker who knows the local market and has their own strategies and techniques. Everyone does things in different ways. This is how I advise my clients. So once again, I'm Dave with Carlson O'Connell Commercial Real Estate. If you have any questions about buying your own commercial building as a business owner, go ahead and contact us. We'd love to chat. If you found any value in this video, please hit subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. This is a video series to help business owners make informed decisions about their commercial real estate. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.